Your journey can only begin when the self-doubts stop. The first step is harnessing your bravery within. Believing in you is your host, Sean Dumas.
Hello and good day to you all. My name is Sean, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to another weight loss series episode on Bravery Within. Well, welcome to season 2. This is the second episode of the second season, which I gotta be honest, I'm still in shock that there is a second season. You guys are tuning in, listening, sending all kinds of information over. It's amazing. You guys have been so fantastic about communicating with me, emailing me, whatever way I've been contacted out in the real world when I'm out bebopping around and either heading to my work or getting groceries or anything like that. You guys have been fantastic to communicate with me. It's been so much fun. And I come to find out too, being that this is episode 2, I was going to mention this in episode 1, but I had so much stuff that I wanted to say that I never got around to it. So it was really, really cool. And I wanted to say I do have a lot of listeners here in the U.S., but the amazing part is this podcast is now being heard on 5 other continents in 14 countries. I got the reports and stuff here just a couple days ago and stuff. They're from Buzzsprout. They're the ones that host my podcast and send it out to the world. And I was absolutely, completely blown away with how many people just not in the U.S. that are listening. So thank you so very much. I am deeply honored to have all of you guys listening, tuning in, sending me your questions, sending me your comments. I absolutely love it. You guys are way, way too awesome to be doing all this. I never thought I'd ever be heard in quite the scope that I have been heard. So thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate it. This episode is all about staying positive during your weight loss journey. Now, let me tell you, it is very difficult. We all have ups and downs. We all have tough days thanks to either our jobs or our personal life or, maybe something about family got to you. We just got done with the holidays and everybody's probably still trying to, get back to somewhat normal. And things are settling down, so I'm able to get back into my podcast, talk to you guys. My weight loss journey is still doing good. Like I said in the first episode, I'm hoping to be real close to my final weight loss numbers by August 1st of this year, 2024. So I'm hopefully, I'm going to get there. So episode 2 of season 2 of the weight loss series is called Negative Thoughts and Bad Habits. And these are some of the things that you're going to have to address in the very, very beginning. And let me tell you, there's a lot to change. And I have to admit there that I had a lot of changing to do. I had a lot of negative self-thoughts, comments about myself, comments about other people, grudges that I was holding. Wow, I had to do a lot of reprogramming. I'm not going to argue about that. I had to let a lot of things go. And I have to tell you, once I did that and I started moving forward with working on myself and getting my mind into the right state where it needs to be and where it is currently right now, it made my weight loss journey so much easier. There's so much that's always going on out there, don't get me wrong, and there's so many things that can pull you down, can just drag things out. It can be very, very difficult. But the thing is if you take anything away from the podcast today, from this episode, please just think positive about your weight loss journey. I mean, I really, really can't say that enough. I can't, if there was anything that, I could write down and email you or hand you a piece of paper and give it to you, that would probably be the one thing I want you guys to take away most from this episode is be positive about your weight loss journey. It is way too easy to get, be negative about everything and be down about everything and to think, because most of the time, let's be honest, when you're on a diet, which we don't like that word around here, but when you're on a diet, it's very negative. I mean, there's nothing good about a day. You're trying to lose weight. You're being extremely restrictive. You're not eating what you want. And let's be honest, you're grumpy, you're growly, you're not happy. With the weight loss journey, the thing that I learned is you have to be positive because this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. A diet is a sprint where if you only need to lose 5-10 pounds, then a diet's a perfect thing for you. Absolutely. But somebody like me that had to lose over 300 pounds of fat off of my frame, this isn't something that's going to happen overnight. And you have to get that worked into your mind as soon as possible, because the further and further you go on with the weight loss journey, it's really, really easy to get discouraged and have things not quite work the way you want them to work, which I don't know how else to say it. It's just kind of, you can derail real easy, and it gets to be overwhelming at times. No arguments there. But once I started, and it didn't happen overnight, like I've told you guys many, many times in the past with my own weight loss journey, I didn't do any research. I didn't plan ahead. I didn't talk to anybody. Nothing. I Thelma and Louised it off the cliff, and I just went all in. That's all I did. But that was the way to get my mind into the right frame of mind to get going. I still had all the junk food in the cupboards. I still had, all the pop in the fridge. Anything bad for you was still available. And I started January 1st of 2022. I started just boom. I just decided that morning I'd had enough. I was sick and tired of being fat. I was sick and tired of all the fat shaming that I was enduring. I was tired of just feeling like overall crap, for the lack of better words, because your body hurts constantly. I was always like in a funk, always in a negative thought process. And I had to go back to school, and I had to figure out who Sean was. That was one of the first and foremost things that I had to do, and find out, okay, who am I? How am I gonna get past this? How am I gonna forgive the people that I need to forgive? Or how am I gonna let go of grudges? How am I going to start thinking more positive about losing weight? And and yes, you lose weight, but more technically, we're trying to lose fat. It was really when it comes down to. And I had so much fat to lose. I knew this wasn't going to be a 1 month thing, a 2 month thing, 6 month thing, or even a year thing. When I originally started out, I gave myself 2 years to get the weight off. I figured I could do it in 2. I couldn't, and I have stayed steady at it. I have done good. I'm proud of myself. But 2 years is just not enough time to take over 300 pounds off. Maybe if I had exercised, it'd come off a little bit faster. But when you've had 2 hernia surgeries and reconstructive back surgery, working out makes me very nervous, because if I do something wrong, I literally can sever the nerves in my spine, and then I don't walk anymore. And then I can't take care of my family, I can't pay my bills, all of that stuff. So I set out, and there were so many people that told me when I started that you have to exercise, you have to work out constantly, you got to work out 16 days a week and at least 30 hours a day and all this stuff if you want the weight to come off. And I told them all, no, you don't have to. Now, should you exercise and work it into your life? Absolutely, no arguments there. I absolutely agree, you need some exercise, because that's life. You've got to get the weight off somehow, and just to keep yourself healthy, keep the heart working right, and keep the lungs working right. And it's good for your mental status is to be bop around. And even if you go for walks around the neighborhood, that's still working out. Everybody associates working out with going to a gym and pumping 200 pounds of weight per arm and, doing all those presses and running on the ellipticals and, the treadmills, and, you got to at least run on those for at least 16 hours or you haven't done anything. Well, I don't subscribe to that way of thinking. I have thought about, with my friend and my son Alex, starting to light workout maybe this year. That's something that I'm not 100% behind yet, so I haven't started it, but I am now considering it. I wouldn't even have considered it, even 6 months ago. There was just no way that I would have. And my friend Rebecca, she does a lot of working out. She goes to, she swims and stuff there, and anything to make it easier on her joints, because if you're anything like me, you're so far overweight. I mean, morbidly obese doesn't even hardly even really describe how far overweight I was. It's so hard on your knees, your ankles, your joints, your hips, your back. I mean, it's just because you're carrying all of that extra weight. Well, when you do that, for me, when I would look in the mirror and it was like, bleh, I cannot stand who I see looking back at the mirror, that turned into depression. Depression turned into, okay, well, I need to cope. So then I would go find food. And of course, it's not the healthy food. It would be the bad for you food. And it's like, okay, well, now I ate that. I wolfed down those brownies. Now I feel guilty. Now I'm back to square one again. Now I'm, it's like, it's a horrible, vicious circle. And as I've said many times in my other episodes, losing weight is mostly mental, like 90% mental. It's easier to count the calories, to watch what you eat, to keep a food diary, to make sure that you're staying on track and everything. It's much easier to do that than it is to get your brain rewired, for a lack of better thoughts. And I had to rewire my brain. There was just no getting around it. I had to do something different. I didn't like it. There was a lot of grudges that I was holding on to, and I don't even know why I was hanging on to them. I'll be very honest with you. I just knew I was mad at this person. But I was so mad at him for so long, I couldn't even have told you what the original initial reason was why I held a grudge. I just don't, it been so long. So I got rid of all those. I purged those from my memory, which, given my age, is real easy. It's real easy to forget things. It's easier that than it is to remember anymore. But I did everything I could to try to reset my mind. I've had to do a lot of retraining, and I've had to eat a lot of crow on this weight loss journey. People would tell me certain things about, well, you gotta exercise a little bit, or watch your intake, or lower your portions, or once you start exercising, or once you start losing weight, you feel better and you think better. And there's been so many things that I've had to go back and, before I started my weight loss journey, they would say those things, and I'd say, what a crock of beans. You're just lying to me. Quit trying to lie to me to make yourself feel better. Well, then I started going down the road and I started seeing some of the benefits of losing the weight. And it's like, oh, son of a gun. Now I got to eat that crow. And so there's been a lot of crow that I've had to eat on this journey. But in some respects, I'm actually happy that I did, because it means I've started and I've continued on with this journey, and I have no intentions of giving it up. I mean, I maintained, this is the second Christmas that we've went through, holidays and stuff there, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I maintained exactly where I needed to be. Yes, I had a little piece of either like a little piece of banana bread there, or I might have had a little hot chocolate there, but none of it was in excess. Absolutely none of it. And if I could have had a cup, I had half a cup. So I was really, really careful with everything. So I maintained all of my weight loss because I didn't want to throw it out the window for one holiday. So I was real careful with that, and I was so proud of myself. And luckily, the place where I went to, Rebecca, she hosted Christmas this year. She was real careful with making sure that we were protein heavy on everything, kept the sugars down, kept the carbs down, which, let's be honest, during the holidays is an almost impossible task. But we did, and I'm so proud of her. We've come so far, and I'm happy with, the progress that we both have made. I have a wonderful support group, so that makes everything easier, which makes it easier to purge the negative thoughts and get rid of some of the bad habits. So when I started out, I knew there was a couple things that I was not going to give up on this journey. There are just some things I just absolutely refused to give up. Now, I have to maintain this for the rest of my life. So I had to be honest with myself. Okay, what am I going to give up and what am I not going to give up? I needed to be honest with me, with Sean. I had to be honest with me. I can't lie to myself saying, well, I'll only have those once in a while, or I'll just never have them again. When I knew in the back of my head that I was full of hooey balooey, and I knew I was going to have them. So I had to be honest, and it's easier to be honest with yourself and work them into your weight loss journey than it is to lie to yourself, and then you have a bad day and you eat all this stuff and you blow everything right out of the water, which doesn't do you any good. So some of the changes that I made, the first one was eating foods that were good for me and that I liked. Now, typically when you're on a diet, there's tons and tons of, which my absolute horrible things to eat are vegetables. I cannot stand them, and that has made my journey a lot tougher because a lot of your vegetables, they're good for you. They have vitamins and you need them. No arguments there. But they're lower on calories, and you can eat more of them, so that way you stay full, and it's easier to make different meals. Well, when you got somebody like me that absolutely will not eat vegetables, it makes this journey so much more difficult. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent online searching for recipes that were either light on vegetables or didn't have any, because everybody sees that when you're on a weight loss journey or a diet, they cram you full of vegetables. And it's like, I'm not going down that road. I don't like them. I'm not changing. I'm not going to lie to myself saying that, yeah, I'll eat a ton more when I know I'm not going to. So I had to find a way. I had to find a workaround, and I did. And I protein heavy. I mean, probably 85% of my diet is just protein. The rest of it there is going to be made up by, some healthy things. You have to have some carbs. So I keep those to a bare minimum, and you're supposed to have right around, I think it's about 220 grams per day of carbs is where the recommended dosage is. I try to maintain around 80 per day or less, which is not good. Let me tell you, there are days that I bottom out really, really bad. And by bottoming out means I have no energy left. I have no food left to build anything with. My ribs will feel like they're sucking in and they hurt. My muscles are weak. It's all due to because I'm not eating enough carbs. So typically what I'll do on those days is I'll come home and I'll bump my carbs up just a little bit, enough to get everything hurting again, because then it helps get rid of that brain fog that I can't think anymore. I can't do anything. I just, every day is just, you don't know what you're up against. If I know I'm going to be working extra hard at the shop, then I make sure that I bump up my caloric intake and my carbs a little bit to try to offset it a little bit, but not to go too far over that I ruin everything. So it's every day you have to adjust. I mean, it's just the way it goes. Now, I'm sure there's going to be dietitians, there's going to be doctors, there's going to be nurses, there's going to be all kinds of people screaming at me for what I'm saying, but I'm saying this works for me. And I hope it works for you. I'm not saying it's going to, because I don't have a big fancy piece of paper or a diploma hanging on the wall saying, hey, I'm smart. I went to school for 8 years, so I understand this stuff. I don't have anything like that. I'm just a normal 40-hour-a-week guy that works at a shop and comes home and pays his bills and tries to do the right thing life-wise, and while on my weight loss journey. And I'm just having to figure this out as I go. But I'm 2 years into it and almost 250 pounds down. I think that's pretty darn good. I think I've earned the right to say that, yep, it's working for me. Do I have bad days? Oh, absolutely. Oh, I have crash days, but I've learned how to adjust. I've learned how to have things in the cupboards ready to go. So when I do bottom out or I have a bad day, I can have something and it'll bring up my levels a little bit. But that lets me know that I'm doing the right thing, because I'm keeping myself as low as I can so my body keeps burning. It's not in starvation mode, because if you go too far and you don't do you bring yourself back up, you go into starvation mode and then you don't lose weight at all. And then you might as well just give up at that point, because it's going to stink. So I'm always walking that line of eating too much and not eating enough. And that line changes on a daily basis. For the most part, it stays pretty consistent. But I got to be honest, there's some days that I work harder at work. I'm around the shop a lot more, burning more calories, and I have to adjust accordingly. Now, I do have stuff in my desk that I can adjust accordingly to make sure that I'm okay and have a little bit of this or a little bit of that to keep myself limited out. So that way I don't, because when I bottom out, then I get really, really cranky. I get mad. I get really, really upset. And then once that kicks in, then my depression will kick in, and it's just a downhill spiral from there. So I have to be really, really careful with what I'm doing. So another thing that I changed was I tossed out most of the starchy and high carb foods that I enjoyed. And let me tell you, I cried a little bit, not gonna lie. Getting rid of all the good stuff there that you've relied on your whole life, and you're stretching out. I mean, like I said before, I thought I was going to starve to death. I really did on this weight loss journey, but I haven't. I haven't come even close to starving. I eat better now than I ever have, and I love the way everything cooks up, the way we do things. I'm always looking for specials at the grocery store in the meat section and stuff. There, things go on sale, so then you buy when it's on sale. so that way you can keep your protein up. You just learn to compensate for everything, and it's easier than you think. But like I said, you have to start out with a mental thing. You have to get rid of the bad thoughts. You have to look at the journey as a positive thing and not a negative thing. And in this world, we're too programmed anymore to think of everything in the negative tone, which doesn't work. It's just not, it's not a good way of going about life. You got to find the positives. You got to find something good every day. When you wake up, you should be grateful for something. That should be the first thing you think of. What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for either my health or my kids or my partner or whatever it is. Grateful for the sun rising. Grateful for having air to breathe. You've got to find something positive so that way you get yourself rocking and rolling in a positive thought. So as you're going through the day, it helps, and it also helps your weight loss journey. Another thing that I had to learn was eating smaller portions. I'll be honest, and I talked about this in the last episode, I still struggle with this one a little bit. I eat a lot less. I'm the type that I don't like to throw food away. It drives me crazy. There's enough people that don't have enough food, and I hate throwing food away. So I've learned to eat smaller portions. And sometimes I think, that's just not going to be enough. But by the time I dish up my plate and go and sit down, you'd be surprised on how fast you fill up. Once the longer you go down the road of this journey, you eat less and less, and it gets easier and easier. I only keep foods and snacks that I could safely have in the cupboards. I mean, that helps out, pretty much all the way across the board for, having good things that you can eat. And you're not afraid to, because we all have those days where you just want to go to the cupboard and just grab something and eat it. And if you have good things in there, that's going to help you. So when you do have it and you do snack, you don't have to feel as guilty, and you probably don't have to feel guilty at all, as long as you have good, healthy stuff in there. And I know that, sometimes some people eat rice cakes. I personally don't care for rice cakes, but I know some people do. You have to find that one snack that you can go to that's going to curb those cravings and not blow your journey right out of the water. And it takes time to find that. And you will. There's no doubt in my mind. You will find it. I have all kinds of things in the cupboards that I have that I can go to. I keep a lot of meat and cheeses all cut up, ready to go in the fridge. So if I get that craving or I'm really, really hungry, or if I feel myself bottoming out, I can just go right to the fridge right away and just grab it, and it's all cut up. And that's why I think a lot of us go for the junk food, is because it's finger food and it's easy and quick to eat. And of course it's loaded in sugars and all kinds of naughtiness. But at least this way, it's all cut up and ready to go for you. So I have, turkey cut up, ham cut up, cheese cut up, ready to go. So all you do is pop the lid off of it, and then I can be munching. And it really, really does help. It really does make things a little bit easier. I also basically made the change of almost eliminating eating out. I still eat out. I eat out at least once a week with my family. It's always on a Friday night for our poker nights. But when I do, I'm very, very conscious of what I'm eating. I make sure that I don't get anything that's carb loaded. I make sure that I don't get anything that's sugar loaded or anything like that there. I either having, I like going to the places where you can have breakfast, because then you can normally have a loaded omelet, or you can have a steak, or you can have, there's all kinds of different things that you can have. And if you're careful, eating out's not bad, but you can't make a habit of it, because you don't know what they use on the food back there in the kitchen. And they might be adding something for flavor-wise that you can't account for, that's going to bounce up your caloric intake. So you have to be careful, but I recommend, there's nothing wrong with that. Eating out once in a while, going out with your friends, I think it's a great stress reliever, and I think it helps. It's nice just to sit down and have a meal served to you once in a while, instead of making everything, because I'll admit it does get old making your food constantly, but at least when I make it at home, I know what's on it and I know what I've made it with, so that it's easier to control the calories. I had to be honest with myself, and like I've already talked to you about, as I had to be honest that I was not, there's two things on my weight loss journey I refuse to give up, I will never give up, and there's nothing that will change on that. One of them is Mountain Dew, my favorite pop in the entire world. There's ever a zombie apocalypse, and when the Mountain Dew runs out, I'm driving off a cliff, because I'm not going to be able to function without it. The second thing is chocolate. Now, I have reduced my chocolate intake by probably 90%. But I still had to be honest with myself, saying you still have to have some chocolate. That's just just the way I am. And I knew going into this that I was going to be that way, and I was unforgiving. I mean, I changed my life. I've changed things around. I have flipped my world upside down. But I knew that Mountain Dew and chocolate were going to be the two things I was not going to give up. So I build my weight loss journey around those calories and sugars, so that way I can still have them and I don't feel guilty. And people look at me funny saying, you still drink Mountain Dew? That's bad for you. You can say whatever you want to say about it. I love it. And I've drank it since I was a wee little lad. And I'm not giving it up. I mean, other people have wines or they have beers or whatever, and they're not giving those up. You just drink smarter. They may drink the low calorie ones or the low carb ones. You just get smarter about, what you drink and what you eat. And I know I'm going to have it. I don't have a lot of chocolate. Like I said, I dropped my chocolate intake by at least 90%. Maybe even a little bit more, I'll be honest. But I know that I just build in for it, but you have to have some sugars. And I typically will have those very first thing in the morning. One, the Mountain Dew is good for my migraines. It helps keep them kind of at bay. And then the chocolate I have in the morning, but I can burn all those calories off instead of, eating them at night. And then when you go to sleep, you don't burn those calories off. I found that it's just easier to do that stuff in the morning. That way it also gives you kind of that jump start to get going in the morning, where some people will have their cappuccinos or their special coffees or whatever. That's kind of my thing to get going. Another thing that I learned was to count calories. I don't enjoy it, but it's necessary for my journey. I'll be honest with you. And because of it, I'm seeing incredible results of it. Yes, it stinks to kind of keep an eye on the calories, but it holds you personally responsible for your own weight loss journey. If you start seeing, and a lot of people will keep what's called a food diary, and I think that's a good thing, because what happens at that point is you're being personally responsible with what you're eating, with the calories, with the sugar intake. And I'll be honest, I don't count every calorie. I just don't. I don't count every carb. I eat a lot of the same things day after day after day, so it makes it very much easier to count stuff, because I've already counted it, and I know if I have 2 cheesy brats in the morning, I have to build in for 500 calories, but that pulls me through. And then I have little snacks along the way throughout the morning to keep my metabolism up, to keep things moving, and things got a lot easier. Then I don't have to worry about counting, because I know it's the same thing. Okay, yep, I had that in the morning. This is how much I've got going on. My lunches I'm real careful with. They're protein loaded, so I don't really worry about too much. When you have the protein coming in, it makes it a lot easier, because those calories they count, but they don't count. I haven't figured out a good way of saying that yet, but I'm working on it. But I found there that just loading with protein and stuff there makes things so much easier, and you don't have to worry about counting every little calorie. Now, a man of my size, when I started out, I was supposed to be at around 3,200 calories per day to maintain, but I was over 300 pounds overweight, and I was also eating 7,000 to 9,000 calories per day. So I wasn't anywhere near the recommended levels that I should have been at. But now I'm down to I should be taking in about 2,700 calories per day, but I'm keeping myself limited to around 1,900. A safe, and I've read a lot of information and articles and medical journals. The safe amount for safe, effective weight loss is chop your caloric intake by about 500 calories, and that will get you moving without going into starvation mode and without making things so miserable. But when I started, I went from between 7,000 and 9,000 calories down to 1,200 literally overnight. And let me tell you, that first couple weeks was miserable. Oh man, that was absolutely horrible. That alone will keep me on my track where I'll never ever shift gears again. But that was part of some of the bad habits that I had. I was overeating so bad. I had to find a way to change the things up. And like I said, it took probably 6 months altogether before the cravings, before the detoxing of my body and getting into a solid routine where I knew I was at and I was locked in and I was good with this, it took about that long. So the habits typically will start forming after about 21 days. Well, mine, by the time I got done, took literally about 6 months before I finally realized, yep, I'm invested in this, I'm going with it, here we go. And now I'm 2 years into my journey, and there's no way that I would look back. The negative thoughts that I have about myself or about other things have been, I bet I have 75% less negative thoughts now. I still have some negative thoughts, and I don't think I'll ever get rid of them all. But I mean, to drop off 75% of the negative thinking and the bad habits that I used to have is phenomenal. My bad habits there is probably down by 95%. I'm very, very careful with what I do now, because I want to be around for my son and my family. And the only way to do that is to be smarter about what I eat and what I put in my body. So that meant I had to purge myself of all the grudges and negative self-talk that I was doing to myself, because I was also sabotaging myself by saying all kinds of nasty things. You know, it's just like when I say, when I look in the mirror and I go, bleh, oh, that's disgusting to look at. Well, that's negative self-talk, and that's one thing you don't want to do. You need to find something positive, saying, wow, look at, I can see the difference in your face, or I can see the difference in your arms or legs, or you find something positive, so that way you build yourself up and not tear yourself down. And it takes time. It's not something that happens overnight, but honestly, I think once you start down the road and you start making it a priority to think basically make yourself a priority. Make yourself the number one thing, and it's not being self-centered. What you're doing is you're building a good foundation to lose all the weight that you're going to be losing. I'm not saying that everybody's like me, where they got to lose over 300 pounds worth of weight. Some of you may only have to lose 25, 30, whatever it is, but it's still good to be positive about this stuff. So that way it makes it easier. So you're not looking at your journey as a negative. You shouldn't be. You should be looking at it as a positive, saying, hey, I'm doing fantastic. So what if I only lost half a pound this week? You are still going in the right direction. Don't let anybody tell you any different. You still lost weight. That's phenomenal. You're going the right way. Instead of putting on a half a pound, which is going to make it a negative, you lost half a pound. That's a positive. So you didn't take off 10 pounds that week, or whatever number you set yourself for. As long as you're losing and going in the right direction, you pat yourself on the back and be proud of yourself. That's awesome. It's hard to do, especially with all the temptations that's in this world anymore. It's just insane to try to to lose weight. So some of the other things that I've done is I had to learn is I don't eat too quickly anymore. And that one I struggle with, because most of the time when I sit down for supper or even dinner, I'm normally really super hungry. So I have a tendency to eat. So especially with dinner, it makes it a lot easier because, you know, it's noon, I still have half a day to go, and I typically bring my lunch, dinner to work. So it's already portioned out, so I don't have to think about it, and I don't worry about the calories, and I don't worry about counting because I've already counted in for it. But I try to slow down to enjoy the meal, but sometimes I'm just so hungry that I don't. But I've learned that if I eat too quickly, then I might eat more than what I'm supposed to. So I make sure that I portion things out to what I'm supposed to have, so I don't have to worry about it. So if I do eat too quickly, I know I'm not going to overshoot the mark. But if you go up there and you take your plate and you put 17 scoops of mashed potatoes and gravy and, you know, whatever else that you're going to put on there, 6 hamburgers, well, eating too quickly, now you're going to blow everything right out of the water. So it can take time for your tummy to send the signals up to your brain saying, yo, we're full. So just make sure, slow down a little bit. I found that helps. It kind of goes along with, distracted eating. A lot of people, and I'm guilty of this, that's why I do the pre-portion stuff. You sit down, we don't eat around the table much anymore. We watch TV or whatever. And we'll talk about our day and stuff. Alex comes home and we'll talk about the day. So you have to be really, really careful, because it's really, really easy. And I've caught myself before too, is I get the low calorie popcorn. Love that stuff. It's a great snack. But I have to pour it into a bowl, because I made the mistake one day of sitting down and watching my favorite show, Star Trek, and I didn't realize it, and I ate 3/4 of the bag. I wasn't paying attention. I was like, oh man, there's all kinds of calories that I didn't need. So I learned the hard way when I was first starting out. Okay, pour it into a bowl, so when you run out, that's it. You're not going over the mark. And I found that helps me out big time instead of just sitting down with the whole bag. And I know there's people out there that, they have bags of potato chips or Doritos or whatever it is. And it's so easy when you're watching TV because you don't realize. And those things are so good. It's like, I just want more and more and more. So I've learned to portion them out into a bowl before I sit down. And it makes it easier so then I don't go over and I don't really have to think about it. And I know how many calories that I've taken. I was always really good about this. I would do it once in a while, but not too often. But if you're going to start down your weight loss journey, make sure you don't skip breakfast. That is, your body needs that fuel to get going, to kick up your metabolism, get your blood sugars going. It's going to help you. If I miss breakfast, oh man, it is not good. I actually have a really, really crappy day at that point. So I make sure that it's built into my routine and never, ever skip breakfast. And going, and I pick up like cheesy brats in the morning because they're protein. I pick them up at my convenience store and they're in buns, but I don't eat all the buns because I share the buns with my birdie friends at work. I end up throwing them a lot of the buns so I don't take in too many carbs, but it holds the hot dog until I get to work. So I stay away and I never go to go through a fast food drive-through when I'm going to work because none of that stuff is really, really good for you. You can pick up a couple healthy things, no doubt about that, as long as you stay there. But it's so tempting to, get the naughty things because it smells so good. It's like, oh my goodness sakes, how am I going to get through this drive-through line and be good? So I realize that that's one of my triggers and that's one of my temptations, so I stay away from it. I don't put myself in a bad situation where I might make a bad decision. And it is so easy to make a bad decision when you set yourself up to fail like that. We have willpower and everybody has different levels of willpower. And my willpower is running at 100%. Back when I first started, I had none. I probably was in the negative for willpower. And now I can walk by a box of donuts, one of my favorite foods on earth, and I'm fine. I can just keep right on a cruising, and I don't need them. It's amazing how things change once you get going, but it takes time to build your willpower. It takes time to build in everything that you need to succeed, and always find a way to put yourself in a good position. Don't put yourself in a negative position where you might make the wrong decision. But always set yourself up to win, not to fail. And once you start doing that and you see things differently, it makes it so much easier. Another thing that I had to get rid of was emotional eating. Whether I was lonely, stressed, sad, mad, whatever it is, I realized that when I was that way, I ate my emotions because I didn't know how to process them. I didn't know how to deal with them. And I'm not going to lie, I still struggle with that a little bit because I'm 49 now. So for basically 47 years, I used food as a coping mechanism to get through my day. And let me tell you, when you don't have that anymore, I'll be honest, I still struggle on some days. Like, how am I going to get through this day? But I always find a way. I always find a way to get through. And it may not be the best way where, okay, yeah, I want 17 chocolate chip cookies and some lemon meringue pie, but I know I can't have them. So then I'll go to my meat and cheese bowl and I'll have a few of those things there. So if I'm going to eat, at least I'm putting something healthy in my body and not something naughty. So it has helped by basically help my bad habits and my bad mental status by not emotional eating. And let me tell you, it's like I said, I'm 2 years into this and I still struggle with this one. Now there might be, if you're feeling that way all the time, you might have to get some professional help and talk to somebody. They'll be able to steer you in the right direction. They'll be able to help you. I like I said, I am not a psychiatrist. I'm not anything like that. I'm not smart like that. I'm just me. But there's nothing wrong with getting help. And there's so many people that look at not, if they go and get help, they're weak. You're not weak in any way, shape, or form. I just want that clear. You are exceptionally strong for seeking out help. And we're kind of all trained to, well, just do it on your own, just be, push through, persevere through, we got this, rah, rah, rah. And you find a way to get yourself through. But there are just some obstacles that are just too great, and you need to talk to somebody and you need to get some help. And there's nothing wrong with getting some professional help. That's what those people are out there for. It's what they went to school for 8 and 12 years for, is they're smart, they're great, they have the tools to help you. There's nothing wrong with that. And it'll probably help you with the emotional eating. They'll give you some other ways of coping with, so you don't have to turn to food like what we have done our whole lives. It makes a big difference. So another thing, that make sure you get enough sleep. That's one thing that I'm really tough about, is I don't always get enough sleep. I don't sleep well, so I still struggle with that. But I do find that on the days that I do get some rest, it's easier to push through, and the temptations aren't quite as there, and my willpower is even stronger, so it helps out a little bit. Another thing that I changed is I don't go to the grocery store hungry. Oh man, that was bad. There were sometimes before I started down my weight loss journey, it was like, oh, clear out aisle 2. 4 grocery carts later, and of course, aisle 2 is going to be all the candies and the cookies and the everything bad for you. And I would clean them out. And I'm sure that, the grocery store that I go to and stuff, they were probably upset when I took on my weight loss journey, because they probably had to sell some stock to stay open because I was buying so much for it. But I never go to the grocery store hungry, so I try to do the best that I can. Another thing, and this is another one that I wish I would have known about this, to be honest, and I touched on this earlier, is putting too much emphasis on calorie restriction. You can go too far with caloric restriction. You can, and I admit in the beginning I did, but I had to do something to jumpstart my journey. Like what I said, I went from 7,000 to 9,000 calories a day to 1,200. You cannot go under 1,200. It doesn't matter who you are. You cannot go below 1,200. Your body just will not function anymore. You go into starvation mode, and it's just not enough to keep you going. So I went, bam, right to the limit, right to 1,200. And that's about the only thing that I knew about my weight loss journey, is I knew I couldn't go below 1,200. So to do that kind of a switch, whoo, I don't ever want to go through that again. And I don't recommend that anybody do that. Start off slow instead of being crazy like me. Start off slow and reduce your caloric intake by 500 calories. And that's a big change. That's more than you think. I mean, 500 calories is huge when you start chopping them off. But for me, I chopped off 5,000. Instead of starting slow at 500, I started off with 5,000. I dived into the deep end of the pool and woo! But that's what I had to do to get myself moving, to get things rocking and rolling. So that's a bad habit. So be very, very careful about being too restrictive with your calories and stuff. And there's a few other things that you can do. Don't use food as a reward is another one there that I had to get away from, where if I had a good day or I worked hard or, I was proud of myself because I got a bunch of stuff accomplished around the house, cleaning up or projects, then I would reward myself with, an extra piece of pie or a few extra cookies. Well, you can't do it that way. Reward yourself with something else. Maybe have an extra, like me, maybe having just an extra Mountain Dew or something like that. It's not the best way to do it, but there's other ways. Maybe treat yourself to a walk in the park, or you can go see a movie, or, there's so many different things. Go bowling. You're probably thinking, Sean, did you just say go bowling? I love bowling. I just don't get to do it anymore because of my back, but I really miss bowling. It was a lot of fun. So some of the things that you can do, that will help, basically for changing bad habits. I was trying to come up with a couple where you want to start to get rid of the negative self-talk and everything there, is replace bad habits with good habits. Reward yourself, like I said, go for a walk, go to a movie, maybe buy yourself something inexpensive like I don't know. I really don't buy myself much stuff there, but maybe buy yourself a new candle or a new rug for the house or a new fishing lure or something like that. Just something small, but make sure you reward yourself for your hard work and your diligence that you're pushing through. You have to reward yourself and take care of yourself so that way you stick to the program. It really, really helps. Find out and manage what your bad triggers are. Like me, I know I can't go through fast food drive-thrus and stuff because I know that's going to trigger me to buy stuff that I can't have. I stay out of the candy aisles, and candy and cookie aisles at the grocery store. I know I'm going to make bad decisions if I go down those aisles. So if you set yourself up to win, you don't go down those aisles, you stay away from them, you're going to do better. You're going to set yourself up to win and not to fail. Have a friend help you. Sometimes it's easier, it's always easier to go on a weight loss journey with a friend because then you can hold each other accountable. When one person doesn't want to do it, the other person might have the strength to say, no, we're going to go do it. Let's rock and roll. Let's go do this. So, find a friend that's supportive, even if they don't go down the journey with you, even if they just keep it in a positive tone for you. So when you have your down days, they're going to be there saying, hey, you got this. I'm proud of you. You can do this. Keep pushing. It's just another day. You've got this. Or they can bring you something good to eat there that will help motivate you, like meat or cheeses or something like that, or meat sticks or something like that. There's something that's good that will help keep you motivated. There's so many different things that you can do to switch your bad habits, but the biggest thing is be positive. Like I said, if there's anything you're going to take away from this, is be positive. Switch your negative thinking and self-talk into something positive. Build yourself up. You're not being, conceited. What you're doing is you're setting yourself up to win. You're not being arrogant or anything like that. You're trying to reprogram your negatives, because that's the way our whole society is bringing. Well, what's wrong? What can we do different? Why is this going down the wrong road? Instead of looking for something of, hey, this changed for the better. This is a new way of looking at things. We can do this, and we've accomplished that. There's so many different things. You got to switch it to a positive. And when you start switching things to a positive, it's amazing how far you can get. It's actually really, really neat, because you start seeing things in a different way. Make sure you keep yourself out of the all or nothing thinking. It's very, very easy to get in I have to make sure that I never go over 2,000 calories. And if I go to 2,001 calories, well, I've just blown the whole day out and it's worthless and I'm giving up. You have to stay away from the all or nothing thinking. You're going to have days that you're going to falter a little bit. You may take in a few extra calories, but then you also got to think you're going to have days where you're going to be so busy, you're going to be under on calories. And like me, for everything there, when I'm counting, if like the package says, well, there's 80 calories per serving, I round it to 100, because I'll be honest, I suck at math. And it's easier to remember 100 than it is 80. And when I get to my 1,800 calories, I may have only taken in 1,650. But see, I'm under on my calories, so I know that I've done good, and I don't have to work on trying to remember odd duck numbers. Well, that one there per serving is 4 calories. Oh, good grief. For me to try to remember that, it's an odd duck number, it isn't going to work. So it's just easier for me to round up on everything, and it also keeps you from overeating, from exceeding your caloric daily intake. So it helps, but getting rid of negative thoughts is the first thing that you've got to do. You have to stay positive, because that's going to keep you motivated. When you're losing weight, most of the time we do it alone, and that's why I'm so glad you're listening to my podcast, because I'm hoping something in these episodes help you. I don't know if they are or not, but I've gotten a lot of good compliments saying that it does, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad to be able to help everybody out there. But staying positive is absolutely huge. So when you start thinking, don't overgeneralize. Let's just put it that way. There's nothing that's always or never. There's just, everybody goes to the land of extremes. It's like, I'm never going to lose this weight, or I'm always gaining weight, or excuse me, there's always something. Try to stay away from the extremes. Keep yourself in the positives, which is going to be in the middle, and say, okay, so I gained a pound this week. That's okay, because you know what? Next week, I'm going to find a way to take it off plus one more. Find a positive, turn everything into a positive. It will help. And in the beginning, it's going to be tough. You're going to start thinking, geez, why am I thinking this way? But realistically, once you start using positivity and you start believing in it, you'd be surprised in how much easier it gets. It'll be just as easy as being negative all the time. Being positive it is. So make sure you set yourself up with realistic expectations. Don't think, oh, well, I'm going to take off 37 pounds this week. Oh, give me a break. Nobody can do that. But set yourself up with a realistic one, saying, I'm going to take off 3 pounds this week. That's a healthy goal. That's a lot of weight. I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot of weight. Be proud of yourself for something. Another way of doing, set just small goals. I mean, make small changes. Start off slow on the weight loss journey. You'd be surprised, and if you give yourself time to adjust and give yourself time to get used to it, you'd be surprised in how much that will turn into a positive habit and a positive way of doing it. It'll get so much easier that way. You'd be surprised at how far you're going to come because you just put a positive spin on it instead of negative spin. And make sure you surround yourself with people that support you and love you, and they're going to be there for you. They're not going to do anything to, basically harm you. They want nothing but the best for you. And they will help build your spirits up on the days that you're struggling, because you're going to have days that are struggling. You can't get away from that. I'm just being honest with you. I still have those days where there's just some days it's just like, how am I going to get through this day? But I just know that every pound forward is one less pound that I'm carrying on my frame, and I know I'm going in the right direction. So looks like we're getting pretty close in time, but if you're going to take away anything else, just remember how to be positive. I know I keep saying that, but the problem is it's very, very easy to not think positive and be hard on yourself. Ditch the all or nothing thinking, knowing that you're either all in or not. I have to exercise 17 times a day, or I have to have only 300 calories per day. Or if that doesn't happen, then I've gained weight and this whole thing is worthless and there's no reason doing it. Keep yourself in the middle. Keep yourself going, saying, okay, yep, hey, I did this today. I'm so proud of myself. I had this. I didn't have the cookies or whatever it is on the break room table, the cookies, the cake, the donuts. Hey, I'm proud of myself. I didn't have any of those today. I'm so proud of myself. That's stuff that you've got to be positive about and pat yourself on the back for, because it is so easy to get lost in the negatives. Trust me, it's so very easy to get lost in the negatives. So ditch your old habits, get rid of those. That's one of the first things I had to do. Get rid of your old habits, but do it slowly but surely. Do a little at a time. Don't make huge changes, because remember, this is a marathon and not a sprint. It's going to take time to get everything switched over, get everything going in the right direction, and just mainly set yourself up to win. Don't set yourself up to fail. Set yourself up to win, and don't take any chances. If you know you don't have enough willpower to go down the food aisle that has the cookies and candies, don't go down it. Don't set yourself up to fail, because if you walk by them, there's going to be 6 packages of cookies that are going to drop into your cart, and you're going to go, well, that didn't work. So set yourself up to win. That's so important with this whole journey. And I know you can do it. I have no doubt in my mind. You're amazing. You've got this. I believe in you, so that way you can believe in yourself. I know you have got this. There's no doubt about it. But what I'm going to do here is I'm over in time again for this episode. Hopefully there's something in here that you can use. So as I end all my podcasts, yes, I heard the groan. We're going to end it with the dad joke of the day. So that way there's something positive, something to put a smile on your face, something that you can enjoy. So if you're ready to go, here's the dad joke of the day. Do you know what you call a well-balanced horse? Stable. I love that one. I read that one and I thought that was so cool. I was like, I got to put that into the podcast. So thank you so much there for listening. You guys are amazing. Remember to stay positive and keep the positive self-talk going for yourself. That'll build you up. You'll make good decisions, and everything will work in the right direction. And as always, all my love and support, Sean.